Welcome back. Today's video is healthy versus unhealthy foods. So a lot of people have a belief around what foods are healthy and what foods are unhealthy. So depending on what you've read, depending on your background, depending on many things, people will lump certain foods into what they consider a healthy food category, and other foods will be in the unhealthy food category. Now, what you'll find with this is that there is very little consistency between people around what they consider healthy and unhealthy food. Some people will say eggs are healthy for you. Others will say they're unhealthy. Some people who don't eat meat will believe that it is unhealthy for you to eat meat. Others who then go on a carnivore diet will eat nothing but meat and say that it's healthy. So what this does is it tends to really blur the lines around what good health and what good eating actually means, because they're focusing so much on single food groups or single foods themselves, as opposed to looking at the broader picture. So the better way to look at a diet or nutrition strategy is to consider that you can have a healthy diet or an unhealthy diet, rather than a healthy or unhealthy food. And so the difference here, if you imagine, say, uh, you know, you've eaten a breakfast with some really nutritious foods, you've had a lunch with nutritious foods, then you go and have some dinner, and then after dinner you have a small bowl of ice cream afterwards. Now throughout the day you've just had fruit, veggies, maybe a bit of meat, some nuts, something like that, and then you have that little bit of ice cream, and people say, well, that's an unhealthy food. But in and of itself, that food is not eaten in isolation. You've had that food in the context of a broader diet. You've had that food in the context of a whole lot of other foods. And so we really need to look at the broader picture. We really need to look at what you're eating every day, day in, day out, to determine, is your current eating strategy healthy for you? And this is also going to differ between people, because a diet that may be healthy for me may be different for you. If you're someone who has a really physical job, then your diet strategy is probably going to include a significantly larger amount of food than someone who works in an office. I spend a fair bit of time training each week, so I can eat larger amounts of food, larger amount of calories in my diet to maintain my weight and my fitness level. Whereas someone is maybe older and unable to complete as much activity would have to eat significantly less food in order for their diet to be overall something that was healthy for them. So when we consider this idea of healthy foods and unhealthy foods, we really are better off trying to consider the broader scope of what we're doing. Now, this isn't to say that some foods are more or less nutritious than others. There are foods that you could say are, more or less likely to lead to a bad overall diet, because if you're eating large volumes of processed junk food, then there's a very good chance that your overall diet won't be ideal. But if your overall diet is quite good, maybe you're a young guy or a young girl who has the capacity to eat a lot more food, then you're going to have a lot more capacity to eat what some people may consider less nutritious foods versus other people. So this whole argument around what is healthy and what is unhealthy, it's something that you really want to move past if you want to get better control over your eating, if you want to have a better nutrition plan, because it's all well and good to do a diet, to find some diet, and if it works for you, fine. But for most people, diets do not work for very long, because it's all about trying to limit and have these weird structured rules that don't really mean anything to you. What you really need to work towards is working out a diet and nutrition strategy that works for you, works for your context, works for your situation, works for what the foods that you like and dislike. For some people, that may mean completely eliminating foods because they just simply cannot control themselves once they start, whereas other people find that certain foods they may be able to include in their diet without going crazy. Diet and nutrition is very individual. The idea of what is healthy, it has so many different definitions depending on the person. Some people, my diet would probably be about roughly, at the moment, maybe 3,000 calories a day. Now, for some people, this is too much. For me, this is a perfect amount of food. For some people, they may need to track their calories, whereas for me, for many years, I don't track exactly how much I'm eating. I don't feel the need to. I know what I'm having. and I have my own sort of nutrition strategies that I use to eat an overall healthy diet that work for me and my context. So the aim of eating better is learning about yourself over time and gradually moving towards being able to eat a diet that leaves you healthy, both from an objective sense when you go to the doctor and get blood tests and so on. Makes you feel like you can do it for a long period of time, gives you energy, makes you perform properly in the things that you want to do, whether that's training or whether that's simply living a pain-free, happy life, whatever it may be. That's the aim that you need to be working towards, and that can look like so many different things. So if you're worried and you're caught up thinking about what is healthy, what is unhealthy, think of the bigger picture and focus on your overall diet rather than individual foods.